Happy weekend, everyone. It's me, Jared. I wanted to send out a video. CCU. Thank you to everybody that participated this year. So he's hanging out in the background. We officially ended on Thursday. And so now I am shifting over to the new everything. There's going to be a new kind of deal. I'm going to do a couple of webinars. There's going to be two, and I'm going to be sending out details where you can sign up for one of those if you'd like to come. Basically, just going to be a master class. We're going to talk about kind of physically and emotionally getting a reset so that we can any place. I'll put it this way. I talked in the last video a little bit about, and I have a little facial hair back. Said he wouldn't kiss me without without the beard. Um, but I talked in that video because I wasn't quite sure. I was still kind of in the midst of the channeling process and creating the new stuff, and now it's all done. Many of you have already seen the emails. It's really a neat series. The very first, we're doing modules this time. Normally I do 21 days at a time. This time we're going to do a full like 8 weeks. We're going to start on July 11th, and we're going to go all the way through the end of August. It's going to be a daily work through the whole thing. You'll have access on the blogs, kind of like we would do in a 21 day, but so you can ask me questions, which is important because the new stuff is done in like teaching modules. So you're going to have sort of module one, module two, module three, module four. And the way I'm thinking it's going to structure, and I may get some the peanut gallery. We may change it up a little bit. But I'm thinking that we'll probably take one call and we'll go through some material, and then the next call will be a question and answer about that, and then maybe we'll do an extra one. I may throw in an extra call so that we can also do plenty of Q&A because there's a lot going on in the world right now. I know just from everybody that was in CCU how expanded they felt and how much better they felt after these last couple of months. And I know just from going through some of the emails and just seeing, even interacting with some of you on Facebook, where and Instagram, things like that, I see your posts and seeing that a lot of you are feeling the energies in your bodies. That was one of the things at the beginning of the year that I talked about when we did the 52-week series. um, it was very apparent that as we step into these new spectrums, and in November, I think it was actually September of 2022, I started talking about, and this was through channel. When I'm talking, a lot of times, especially when I'm just on my little, where is it? I have my little, when we're on a call, I've got my little Time Life headset on. And when we're doing that, I will just go into channel or I'll be relaying the information while talking. And so it's hard to kind of sometimes understand that a lot of times I'm channeling the whole time. And the new tracks you can tell because there's a little bit of a difference in the cadence simply because as the energy was coming through, it comes out in a little bit of a different way. Um, and where I was going with that is the first module is all there's it was from Jesus and Saint Germain. It's a channeled eye exercise, and it's all about getting an emotional reset, being able to all of the things that the body has stored. One of the things that I'm going to sidebar, one of the things that came through um, a couple of months ago when we were working in CCU was when people were directing their I am presence, when they were utilizing the creation formula, when they were working with other modes of energy that they work with, the body was not responsible or responding to that direction. And that led me to really look at how the body's consciousness forms itself based on, it does form itself based on our own inner, it can be our soul blueprint, it can be if we come into this life with a little bit of other stuff, but it can also be a lot of the collective drama and trauma. So whether it's family, whether it's politics, whether it's a war, whether it's like geopolitical, whether it's economic, just the things that are basically in the air, right? Everything is energy. And when we're in this backdrop, water is the communicative property. Everything moves through a field. I've used the example before that if you walk into a mall on when it's giant sales everywhere, around Christmas time, especially, it can be a very hectic energy. Or you can visit a sacred site and you feel very peaceful. That's because that's charged. There's a charge in that energy. Your body has its own charge. And so the very first module, which is there's an introduction, the exercise, and both of those have words and then music. The words give you the educational experience. The music allows you to have kind of the journey experience. And then there's also music only. And then there's I think a half an hour where it's just that energy. So you can play it, you can use it with clients, you can have it going through the house. That goes through and it starts to, the way it came in was disrupt the electromagnetic field, not disrupt sounds kind of like, but it was where that flow of negativity or where the charge of the lack and the limitation had been. This allows you to immediately disrupt that charge and fill it with light. Now, the second part of that has been where we have gone to places before, and some of this is past life, and some of this is just the new spectrums we're opening up to, going back to what I was mentioning earlier, that the body is not the body doesn't feel equipped to handle that much light. In a way, it starts to read that as death. One of the things that an amplification of your light, and this was something that came in during channel around 2016, was when you start to bring in that much light, when you start to bring it into your body, it's almost like if you're in a silent room and there's quiet music and the lights are off, and suddenly somebody turns the lights on very bright, and there's that startling. That's also what's going on in the collective in a really large way. It has been for several years now. But as the light intensifies, and rather than people kind of acclimating to that light, which is one of the things that we'll also talk about on the webinar, is how to do that, kind of moving from that resistance to the allowance, where allowing is not just like sitting back and feeling overcome, but allowing is actually a more active, creative unification of your light. So I'm going to send information out on all of that. Some of it, I may put it in this email, but I wanted to let you know, initially, early bird, we were going to kind of run until basically now. I'm going to extend it through because I know I've got a lot of emails for people requesting if they could still get in at that price up until, when they got paid in July. So I'll extend that a little bit. And then on the webinar, so the price, once early bird goes away, we'll go back up to the 777, which is basically for, I just took the weekly. I divided the weekly for what would be a 21 day. And there's the information is going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be easy for you to download. And I don't mean download like energetically. It's not overwhelming in any way, shape, or form. And we're going to take our time with it because, going back to what I was saying with the 52 weeks, there was a lot of bodily things that were going on as we move through these spectrums of energies, as this light increases, as we learn how to integrate that light. But that brings up things where it can feel like a lot of anxiety. It can feel like a lot of economic uncertainty. It can feel like a lot of collective uncertainty. Certainly, when we get into the political waters throughout not just America, but the entire world. There's lots of shifts, lots of opposition to shifts. And if you are not in a place where you're able to really be at peace within yourself, you can get sucked into that energy. I've said before that turn the other cheek doesn't mean get slapped twice. What it means is when you're in that space of feeling that energy, shift your focus. And I know it can be difficult when we're really anchored in to some of those old patterns. And so that's why I wanted to do the kind of masterclass introduction and do some teaching. We're going to do it on Zoom. So you'll see. I'm sure there'll be some channeling. So if I make some weird faces, uh, we'll see. I may make weird faces anyway. I don't know. Um, but we're gonna do that. So I'll go ahead. I'll see if I can include some of that information below. But definitely, if you're interested in the early bird, because that will save you almost $150 full pay, and I think $60 if you want to use the payment plan. It's gonna be it's not just a 21 day. I had a few people email and ask that. We're doing the 8 weeks. If you feel like, hey, I don't know, if you have some kind of blocks come up around time and things like that, we're going to address all of that, because sometimes, even when that's a real thing, sometimes I feel that way too. It's like I don't have time for this. Then I realize, wait, if I take the time for it, I can over I say overcome, but I can jump over all of the kind of hurdles that were in the path I was already creating, and it becomes a whole new space. So definitely take your time to read through the description. I'll add that I'm recording this before I go through and do the email, so I will make sure I include everything that's in there. Feel into it, and I'll include some testimonials and experiences. People already have had the one where I said where I was having the body sensations, where that was the old energies that I had stuck in my body, around some family trauma, around some abuse, things that I didn't consciously I thought I had dealt with. But when I went into that energy, there was still a little bit of a reactionary space that would trigger me when other people were in those. And it went in a very large way. And we had 3 people that actually experienced bilocating. We did a journey call about a week ago, and we listened to Becoming the Master. That's one of the tracks in the modules. After that track, I sat down and I was here, but I was also very consciously and had my body and everything. I couldn't see my face, but I had arms and legs and everything. And it was like I was in the most beautiful, I'm going to call it a country club, because it was just it was the most gorgeous building and architecture. And it was like ancient, but like future because the windows were amazing. And outside was the most vivid colors. And there was a waterfall with these plants. And it was the closest thing I could say is birds of paradise, but they were huge and they were colorful. And with the waterfall and the grains and all of this stuff, and I literally was like, "Where am I?" And I was in that space with Saint Germain and Jesus, and we were. It was like that was the master space. It was this really interesting, and I was like, I was there for probably an hour, and I just kept breathing because it was the most abundant I had ever felt in my life. If you read my face, like it was. I've had a lot of interesting experiences. this this took the cake. And some of the people in CCU had also done the eye movement, and then they'd listened to that track and also had a similar experience of bilocating. And so it's going to be interesting to start really talking about how we create and how light itself becomes physical reality, and how we can go into, and these are some of the things I talked about in Love Life God, just didn't really have the wider discernment of what frequency imaging is. It's that place of imagination, but where it's your heart and your head are completely open. There was a frequency that came through. 52778 is unity consciousness, and 52773 on the creation formula, and I just put, we usually follow it with a dash three, was aligning the head and the heart. And it was because a lot of people, when they went into unity consciousness, it was like they were themselves, but they had this idea that then when they went back with source, it was almost like a chrysalis of souls, all these other beings. And so there was a confusion in their body, and there was a confusion in their energy of what it was to just be one with the one, to be one with source. And then that brought up things like feeling alone, feeling abandoned. We're going to work through all of that, hopefully on the very first call. And certainly we can continue to work with it as we go. But to see then how you can move into bringing that space of feeling the reality that you desire, and what that opens up within is a new way of allowing, where everything is merged and flowing of one accord. And the light language, Doture is, I know it sounds kind of like a musical scale, but that was a thing that kept coming up. And so whenever I interpret after I do a light language session, that was everything flowing of one accord. And when it came in my head, I was thinking that just meant our chakras, our energy bodies, moving everything. It's so much more than that, you all. It's life, it's the universe, it's the source and creation of all, the light, everything moving in that one direction, that one accord. So this goes into our purpose, it goes into our passion, it goes into why we came to Earth in this lifetime. It's huge. So I'm going to include information below. I would love for you to. There may be something before. There won't be anything after, as far as calls, but I'll include the opt-ins. You can come. We're gonna do 2 live calls, and I'm also gonna give away a bonus on the call in the chat room. So if you can show up live, you'll get that bonus. It's gonna be the money ceiling, removing your money ceiling. And for those of you that I know a lot of you did the Living Your Money Miracles with me, about 5, 6 years ago. And there were a lot of the things in that took me from 6 figures of debt into 7 figures of income. And when you start to get into that kind of flow, it can sometimes feel like it's so far away, and it's the most subtle change. And so, anyway, we're going to work on all of those as well. So, I'll put all the details below. And if you are in any way, shape, or form interested, and I believe if you're watching this video, your soul is like, I would love to remember and why I'm here completely, and not be involved in all of this collective stuff, and hold my peace, be my peace. It goes beyond holding, because sometimes holding feels like we're that atlas, right? And if we shrug, like the planet falls off. This is all about moving into that space of really just being, and being who you came here to be. And there's so much that gets us taken off track, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, family, our health, our physical bodies. And then, like I said, just within this year, and this was when I was looking at the 52 weeks, just the energy of, and I said this back in January, and some of this was before things started happening other places, but I said wars, conflicts, there's going to be a lot of that energy. And there's going to be more of it, unfortunately, or not. I mean, it's not really a judgment, but there's a lot of there's a lot of things kind of simmering and brewing. And so this year could be a little bit of that rockiness. And so that's, I think, why normally I don't do as much channeling. You know, maybe I'll do like one a year where, I mean, I'll write messages, but as far as like on a call, maybe I'll do one or two. And that was really, this was like everything in the series. It's all channeled in the way where, you know, I'm listening and filtering and then saying, okay, let's do this and this is where we'll go. And this was like, hey, would you mind getting out of the way and letting us just kind of come through and really, really get the big stuff? Because this is where everybody's at right now. So I'm excited to share it with you. It's going to all be below, maybe a little bit above, depending on how I structure the email. But check it out. Definitely sign up. You get all the material right away. The blogs are going to start up next week, I think, right? Yeah. We'll start up on the 5th. Program kicks off on the 11th. We're going to do webinars. I've got to pick the days after I do this. So we'll do the 2 webinars. If you miss one, I'm going to try. I don't know if I'll be able to do a replay on that or not. I'm still learning how to do some of the software adjustments that I'm learning about. Um, but it's gonna be big and it's gonna be fun. And so even if you feel like, hey, you know what, I don't know about timing or whatever, you definitely want to come to the webinar because it's not gonna be. I'm gonna be doing a lot of work. We're gonna be talking about a lot. And so if you're feeling that angst, if you're feeling the stuff in your body, if you're feeling uncertainty about the world, about the economy, if you're feeling all of those different energies kind of hitting you, a lot of it isn't really your stuff, but it can plug you in based on what stuff you're still carrying. So we're gonna really work all of that. So share it with your friends too. If you know people that are ready to move to that next level and really open up and to stop participating in the back and forth and the collective, I'm going to call it drama. It can really, really feel awful. And so we don't need to be in that space. And the more we learn how to focus and shift our focus and really choose for us, the person that we came here to be through divine love, learning how to choose that. And there's some boundaries in there as well. But boundaries aren't always like, hey, no. Boundary is like you're radiating and you're emanating that energy to the extent that that is just simply what is. That's what's brought into your reality. So that's part of that new kind of structure of allowing. We're going to talk about all of it. So you can tell I'm excited. I may shave between now and then. We'll see if I can get Sadie to still kiss me. But anyway, I love you. Thank you for watching this and read all about it. Feel into the energies of it. It's it's very new. It's not anything I ever thought I was going to do. Um, and I'm excited to do it. And so I would love for you to be a part of it. So check it out below and just enjoy. And remember, if nothing else, because in America we have a holiday coming up. Um, there's there's going to be people out. You're going to be around people. Just really start to feel into what part of this is mine when you get into that space, and know that we're going to really work on that on the webinar. So that's the space where you get to create. I love you. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.